Relationships are the key to everything. If you're leaving it to Automechanika to build a relationship, you've left it too long, in my opinion. You really want to be.
So today we're kicking off with our 30-day exhibition series by speaking to someone who wears a lot of hats. He's a garage owner, industry advocate, and now a Castrol Service Consultant. So Tim Benson is the director of Oldfield's Garage and a familiar face in the independent sector and aftermarket, heavily involved in representing garages at events, pushing innovation, and now supporting that next generation of talent, which we'll dive into later on. At Automechanika, Tim is representing Castrol, IAAF, as well as Ben, the automotive charity. And today he's joining us to share what exhibitions really look like from a garage owner's perspective. So thank you very much for being here with us today, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
No problem. So the reason that I know I've spoken to you just briefly, but the reason that I thought that you were such a valuable person to have on today was the way that you had broken things down in that Automechanika training day. I thought were huge nuggets of how exhibitors could really kind of get in the shoes of a garage owner. I know that a lot of times we can think about the big stand and we can think about, okay, what we're going to do without really thinking about the audience that we're actually serving. So I think that this could be hugely beneficial to go into that. So I wanted to speak about three kind of stages of exhibitions. So the before, the during, and the after. I think that the before and after kind of get neglected sometimes. Let's speak about before the event. What do you believe that works for exhibitors to get garage owners to their stand without that prior relationship? So I kind of mean they're a prospect, they want to get in front of the customer, but that door isn't open yet. So what have you seen work in order to book that meeting prior to the event?
Obviously, we know that any business transactions work through relationships. Relationships are the key to everything. If you're leaving it to Automechanika to build a relationship, you've left it too long, in my opinion. You really want to be focusing on that warm contact. When you've got multiple garages, I think one of the things with Automechanika is it's so vast. It's such a big event, and this year is going to be even bigger than before. So you need to think from an exhibitor's point of view, what is it that's going to get people to your stand? Bearing in mind, there's multiple hundreds of other stands of varying sizes, of varying interest to different people. And just think about what it is that you've got on your side that you want to promote, but think of it slightly differently. Think about it from the participants or the visitors that you're looking to attract. What is it that they're going to want to see? And what is it that's going to bring them to the stand? Number one for me is an invite. Is there's nothing better than actually being personally invited. I don't mean send out a blanket email saying we'd love you to visit our stand. I mean something that resonates with me, why it's worth me visiting the stand and what it is that's important to come and talk to you about.
No, and that was kind of the point that when I heard you kind of say it, I was like, that's such a simple thing that I think a lot of people miss. It is more blanket emails, let's send it out to all of our customer list, but then there's none of that personal relationship that, like you say, is so kind of important, especially in the automotive industry. Everybody knows each other anyway, so you might as well kind of make that contact.
I think it all goes down to targeting. When you're attending these events, you shouldn't be attending it from the point of view of we've got this budget to build a stand, and I think somebody else talks about how you should split your budget up, but it's thinking about what it is that's going to attract people and who it is that you want to attract. The garage equivalent would be a tire kickers, somebody comes and grabs your bag on the stand and then disappears, but that isn't always a waste as long as you understand what they've got it for. And it's just thinking about it a bit more than, instead of condemning someone for grabbing a bag because it's there, think about what you put in the bag and why that's going to be a benefit to somebody. Because you've got to remember that people that are working for garages now might be garage owners of the future. So think about what's in your material that you're giving out and how that's going to be used long term, because it's all about branding and about marketing, bringing your brand to the forefront of the many thousands of visitors that are going to be there.
I think you've nailed it there, and I will say that's a great segment into kind of during the event, because I was going to say, I'm going to ask to you, do you think that the kind of gadgets and stuff that are on the stand, a lot of them, or at least seems to me, could be quite wasteful? Because like you said, I could pick up something, I could pick up a pen, I could pick up this, but maybe it's not actually relevant to my brand. You know, I've seen a lot of people, I remember Core Diagnostics did like a kneeling mat. You know, it seems something that somebody's going to use over time. So has there been anything that stood out for you in terms of what you've gathered and you've thought, oh, okay, I'll go back to that brand because of that?
I think I would look at it in terms of what have I still got after the events. And we've got, I haven't got it to hand in where I'm sat now, but I've got a Castrol water bottle that I've got a Scheffler water bottle that I've got, and it's those products that you keep. And generally speaking, the products that you keep are because they're better quality. So you can see that from a marketing point of view, there's a little bit more thought. Yes, it's going to be more expensive, but I think I've had a Scheffler bottle for 5 years. Still use it, not every single day, but still use it regularly, and it just puts that in front of me, all the time. So it's those sorts of things that make a difference to me. It's something that's of better quality, because again, you've got to, what you're trying to project is the quality of your brand, and I don't think there's going to be that many exhibitors there who are going to be aiming to be the worst product in the market. They're going to aim to, within a position, and if your giveaway stuff is the equivalent of that, it always has a knock on, doesn't it? It always has that effect on how you feel about that brand.
So from a stand perspective then, I know that you had spoken about this on the exhibition day, but you'd mentioned something about kind of how before the event you prep who you want to go see. So you've got a list, you kind of going, there's so many stands there, you're going through Automechanika with a plan, and it might take a lot to kind of steer you off that plan. So I don't know if you remember what you'd kind of touched on, but could you go into that a bit?
And I know this podcast isn't aimed at visitors specifically, but from a visitor perspective, think about what you're going for. You get lots of information before the event. This is an opportunity for exhibitors as well to put that information in front of people. Oh yes, I want to go and see XYZ because of this. But it's getting that prep for me means that I've got time to see the people that I want to see. I've got, and it isn't a plan that at 10 o'clock I go and do this, but it's a plan which is, these are the people I need to see. I go for all 3 days to Automechanika anyway, put a couple into each day or 3 into each day. So I know it's not overloaded, but it's still, you've got this idea, what seminars I want to go and sit in on, it's all done in advance. And then from the exhibitor side of thing, it's you've got to think about what is it that you're going to do to get me to put it into my plan. If you're walking past somebody that's sat on their phone, that's sat on a laptop in the back of the stand with the desk in the way, the likelihood is, for me personally, I'm not going to speak to them unless they've got something that's really, really good as a product that I just can't avoid it. I'm not going to be drawn into it. The types of things that I think are interesting and attractive is something interactive on the stand, getting people to participate with something, with the aim of collecting some kind of information from that person to follow up, because this obviously leads on to later on. Having somebody on there that's enthusiastic about what they're doing, that actually looks up and talks to people. And I think I mentioned something about, has anybody ever thought about refreshing the staff within the stand? Because I've been at exhibitions before, not in this current role, but when you get to the end of the final day, it's tough. You've been, no doubt you've had a few drinks the night before, you've been out, you've mixed and you've networked and you've done all those things, you're physically exhausted. At 2 o'clock on the final day, it's really hard to be enthusiastic when you've had enough. So maybe on the final day, switch a staff around, get different staff involved, so they haven't got that sort of lag of what's happened over the last couple of days.
When you said about the switching your staff at day 3, I said to Kitty Ann, who's the other director, I said, you know what, we might have to do that. I don't want sunglasses on day 3 and just groggy, it just seems like a bad idea.
You're watching the first episode of our 30-day exhibition series. We're dropping a new video every day in the run-up to Automechanika, all about how to actually get results from exhibiting, how to turn a trade stand into leads, sales and long-term customers, what's working, what's not, how the best in the industry are planning to stand out, and how they're turning footfall into real revenue. Every episode pulls back a curtain on a different part of that, proper insights from deep inside the aftermarket. If you're exhibiting this year or just want to market smarter, this is your free cheat sheet. Everything and in between of what actually drives results before, during and after the show, not just on the day. You can watch these episodes on our LinkedIn and YouTube. There's a new episode every day until the doors open. See you there.
So we know that over 75% of leads are actually not followed up during an exhibition, which seems like a crime considering how much you spend on those things. But I'm assuming this could be down to either lack of systems or maybe like the fear of getting it wrong. You know, you've got this contact, you don't know what to do with them. So I'm hoping we can clear up the latter there. Has there been any kind of standout follow-ups that you've had after an event that's either made you purchase or just think about the brand?
Yeah, and I think the best way of getting follow-ups, in my opinion, is some, when you think about the actual event, it's collecting the right kind of information, the right kind of data. And the easiest way to follow up is with a result of a prize or it's so simple, and if you've got people on the stand and they've entered and they've given you their details, they don't know if they won or not. Therefore, that first interaction will be an engagement because they'll be thinking, have I got XYZ? Trying to make a conversation happen needs to be with some basis. I was quite shocked with the stats about how many people don't follow up, and it's got to be systems. It's got to be a systems issue. So think about how you're going to collect the data from the customer. Think about what you're going to go back to them and actually talk to them about. And again, another stat that I was quite shocked by was how far away that some of these sales actually happen. Sometimes it's a couple of years away, and that's quite a big amount of time. But unless you follow up, you've just got no chance, have you?
It means that you've got to keep up that touch point. And I think, throughout this whole thing, you've spoken about relationships. And I would say that this is the exact event or an exhibition in general is where you can kind of at least get your foot in the door that way. So in that case, then, are you kind of thinking that you'd collect their information, engage them with that initial prize draw, and then from there try and at least have something that you'd spoke about at the exhibition so that you can kind of teeter that into the conversation?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, obviously, depending on the size of the business and how many prospects you need, because that's the other thing as well, is that thinking about the prospects, you don't need every single person that comes on your stand to buy something. But what you need to do is make sure your stand appeals to the people that are likely to buy.
Yeah.
And an impersonal email to me wouldn't get any response. Yeah, it might filter something in my brain that says they've been in contact. But if you actually have that conversation with somebody on your stand, you've done the work. You need to follow it up with we were speaking about XYZ. Capture that information. Their systems, they're so sophisticated now, the systems for collecting data.
Yeah.
And it takes maybe a minute after having that conversation to just make some notes. Oh yeah, actually this was Tim from Oldfield and he said that he was interested in this. Follow, just create that note. That'll probably be the most valuable minute you've ever spent, because you've got something when you've seen 100, 200, 300 people to actually talk to me about something I've said.
Yeah.
And that's that's critical.
Well, it goes both ways, doesn't it? As much as there's a lot of guests, I think it was up to like 15,000 now at Automechanika, there's a lot of stands. So all the conversations you're having over those 3 days, if you're not kind of, as the garage owner, saying, oh, we spoke about that, then you're not going to remember them either, are you?
No, that's it. And it's, but we see as an attendee, I think you probably see less people. Realistically, I don't know, if you're going for 6 hours and there's multiple hundred stands, you only need to do the maths to know you haven't got long. So you'll focus on the ones that you want to see first. And then, like you say, the people that might appeal or attract you in as you're walking past and there's something going on that makes you look and gets you to turn your head, if you like. That's really interesting and a really good way of doing it.
Now, going on to what you're up to, you've just launched the Castrol Service Consultancy. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
At the Castrol conference, which was a couple of weeks ago in Newport, I've been working with Race Group and Castrol to develop a consultancy proposition where I can actually, go in with Castrol sort of backing, if you like, and look at what look at how their business is operating, look at things that they're doing, and ways that we can improve the customer experience and the profitability that follows off that. So that's something that we've been working on for probably about 12 months, but we launched it at the conference, which is really exciting and really nice for me. But again, that probably wouldn't have happened if I didn't make these connections multiple years ago. So it all links together.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be on the Castrol stand from 12 till 2 for the 3 days. We're going to be trying to operate on I'm going to be there anyway, but we're going to try and schedule some appointments in to have a chat with people to see, whether I fit what they're looking for and whether they fit what we're working with. So that's my first bit, with Castrol, so I'm really looking forward to that. That should be interesting, and again put me on the other side of the counter at an exhibition.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, so in that case, 12 months work, that must have been a lot of thought that's gone into it. What are the kind of maybe problems or key areas that this is designed to solve?
Yeah, so it's really about sort of taking an external view of their business. One of the things Castrol are really proud of is their brand and how they appeal and how they do it. So they've got a system in place which actually scopes these businesses and assesses and gets them accredited to be a Castrol Service garage. And what they found is that they also had a requirement for garage businesses that aren't in the position that they'd like to be, and that's varying for varying reasons. So it is really a chance for me to go in with fresh eyes, look at how they look externally, in terms of online, what they look like in physical presence. That's obviously going to be stronger because they've had Castrol in already to help with some of that. Look at, from the customer journey point of view, what happens with the customer side, where they can improve that. Look at how they operate in terms of their efficiency and how they're managing workloads and things like that. So it's looking at that aspect of their business and seeing what can be done around that. And ultimately, it's speaking to their team, trying to build a full picture of what their business is like now, understand the objectives of the owner, and then putting together some proposals and some recommendations based on that to give them something to work with to try and sort of move forwards, with their business. So that's a nutshell of the process and what happens. But yeah, it's really exciting to be involved in that, and I think it's I think I'm really proud to be part of Castrol for that, and I think it's I'm really proud of our business that we've created at Oldfield, and I think I've got a lot of experience and a lot of areas and a lot of background in other things other than garages, which means I can bring something to the party whilst also running a garage. So I know what's happening now. I know what's happening in a garage, and these are real things, and I can relate it to what we're doing in real life.
Now, moving on to the other things that you're up to, we know that you're doing something with Ben this year. So without giving too much away, can you tease what kind of impact that's supposed to have?
We're working with Ben, and it's not just me. There's going to be multiple people involved in it, and we're looking at really how the industry sees what Ben do, and trying to get some input for what we've done and how we've benefited from Ben. So really to try and raise that profile. So they're looking for garage owners and people within the industry to help them get their message across that they're there effectively. But we've got some really interesting concepts that we're working on. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really careful with what I'm saying because I've been told by Ellen, do not blab. So we're just trying to put that all together nicely, so it's nicely formatted. But you may find me and maybe some others roaming around the venue.
Ooh, okay. We're getting spoilers. Let's see if we can drag them out once we stop recording. So the other thing that you're up to is spending time in the Motivate area of Automechanika with the IAAF. And we know that the skills gap is a huge issue in the industry and something that needs to be addressed. So Can you kind of tell us a bit more about that?
Motivate obviously is a new initiative that Automechanika have launched. There's going to be better people than me to talk about that whole initiative. But essentially, what it's designed to do is to bring young people into automotive, into their own area. It's going to be completely separate but joined on to Automechanika. And the idea of it is really to try and make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more fun. Some of the big major brands are involved in that part of the exhibition, and the IAAF are effectively looking at how we can represent the automotive independent market within that arena, really, because obviously there's big brands that can easily suck up these people to pull in because they've got these big structured things. And what we wanted to make sure was that actually we're talking about what's available through independent garages, trying to engage the young people and get them interested in being involved.
From your perspective as a garage owner, Castrol partner, industry voice, what do you really think about marketing in the aftermarket right now? So is it getting better? Are garages buying into it more, or are we kind of stuck in old ways of doing it?
I think there's all ends of the spectrum, to be honest. There's an awful lot of really progressive garage businesses and really progressive companies that are doing lots of really good things now in terms of trying to reach younger people. Sending out mail used to be the way to do things. Then it became text, then it became interactive through TikTok and Facebook and all these different things. And it's a journey that we're all on. You could probably argue that now that things have moved away from post, perhaps you should go back to post. There's a lot of content creators having thousands and thousands of views of their content. There's definitely interest in automotive because they're proven. It's just, you've just got to get on the thing and put the time in. But from a marketing point of view, I think there's lots of improvements, but we've got a long way to go. As an industry, we've got so much to learn from other sectors and other ways of doing things. And obviously we've got AI coming into it. Again, not new news, but it's now becoming more important for what we're doing as businesses.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tim. It was a real pleasure. For anybody watching, can you just let them know where to find you or how to get in touch?
On the day, I'm going to be at the Castrol stand between 12 and 2 every single day. I'm going to be roaming around the event, but you can also catch up with me on socials. So I'm available on LinkedIn, on Facebook. If you come through Oldfield's Garage, you will find me in some way. So I'm out there and about.